Hey folks, thanks for joining me today on this very special online masterclass. In this training, I will be giving you an elaborate introduction on the art of Arabic calligraphy and will be equipping you with the essential knowledge on the tools and the resources to get started. Now, we'll start off by talking about the practice of Arabic calligraphy in general, and then we'll get a little bit more specific with the Diwani script. This is a calligraphic script which was first introduced by the Ottomans in the 15th century and is now considered, along with the Thuluth script, one of the more visually appealing and creative Arabic scripts out there today. Now, as we wait for everybody to join, I just want to remind everyone to turn off any distractions you may have going on at this point in time. Please put your phones on silent, close all the windows and the browsers on your computer. Streaming a webinar is a pretty bandwidth intensive process, and it's not uncommon to experience buffering if you have other programs running on your computer. So, you are in the right place if you are an absolute beginner to the art and want to get started with learning this art. You're also in the right place if you've tried learning the art in the past, but either couldn't find an instructor locally or just could never find the time. You're also in the right place if you used to write calligraphy at some point in your life in the past, but life got in the way and now you want to reconnect with the art. So, from the three options that I've showed you here, which one resonates the most with you? I would love to hear it. Go ahead and put it in the comment box and let's see where you guys are coming from. Okay. So I am seeing a whole bunch of ones and twos. So a lot of beginners in this masterclass. That's perfect. I'm also seeing a few threes. So that's great. Now, whatever your incentive is for joining here today, I want to let you know that I know exactly where you're coming from and I have you covered. All right, so here is what you'll be learning by hanging around with me today. Firstly, we will learn a very specific 5-step process to learning Arabic calligraphy from absolute scratch. We will also be discussing 3 critical mistakes beginners make and how you can avoid them. And then we will go over the detailed answer to the most common question I get asked: how can I learn Arabic calligraphy from the comfort of my home without making any significant changes in my daily schedule? Also, I'd highly recommend hanging around with me till the end. I'll be sharing a PDF for the complete stroke breakdown for all individual letters in the Diwani script, and this is a great place to get started if you plan on self-learning this art. So make sure that you stick around till the very end. So I just want to take a quick moment and introduce myself to you. I'm going to make this as quick as possible as I know your time is valuable, but I just want those new to my trainings to feel comfortable that they are learning from a credible resource. So my name is Ramanuddin and my journey with Arabic calligraphy started at the age of 7 when I started learning the art in Saudi Arabia. Fast forward a couple of decades, in 2011 I began teaching the art locally here in the Toronto area, and in 2014 got into the online training world when I launched my first online course on Udemy, which went on to become a bestseller on the platform. Today, I'm the founder of My Qalam Academy, an online Arabic calligraphy platform in the English language that today has more than 5,000 students from 102 different countries, and we're growing at an unprecedented rate. I'm also a published author of 2 books that teach you various topics on the art in the English language. Now, one of the reasons why we're growing at an unprecedented rate is because people, more than ever, are looking to slow down their lives. Lives that keep getting faster as the days progress. And practicing any form of art is one of the truest ways of detachment and getting present with ourselves. And actually, with that, I wanted to transition into our first major mistake. As I mentioned, we'll be going over 3 common mistakes or myths that keep people from getting started. And that is, we make the mistake of thinking we don't have enough time to slow down and express our creativity. In fact, I'd go as far as saying, if you feel you don't have the time to practice Arabic calligraphy, you need this the most. The fact is, firstly, it doesn't require a lot of your time. And secondly, practicing art can bring major therapeutic benefits to your mind, body, and soul. It can really help you take a step back from your treadmill of life and really help you put things in perspective. You see, it's not that we don't have enough time in our day. It's that we choose to keep ourselves busy every waking moment. And we have this misconception that in order to add something in our daily lives, we would have to take something else away. So here is what I suggest to all my beginner students. A strategy that will reap you all the benefits of learning the art while affecting very little in your daily schedule. And that is to practice for 15 minutes only every other day right before bedtime. This way you won't have to put anything on your calendar or, sacrifice taking your kids to soccer practice or perhaps studying for your exams. You do go to sleep every day, right? Just note that in the back of your head, when it's time to go to bed, I'm going to write a couple of words and then go to bed. And believe me when I say this, it will help you sleep better. In its true essence, calligraphy is the perfect art to unwind after a long day and ease up on the stresses of your everyday life. Try it out for a month. You have nothing to lose. If you don't see the benefit, you are more than welcome to go back to your old ways. Okay, mistake number 2. Thinking I can only learn in person. Now, I personally can tell you that this is a huge myth, and many of our successful students are testament to the fact that you can learn the art right from your home. In fact, many of our students have went on to launch their own successful art businesses after having learned the art in their own time. But still, you may think that you're an anomaly and just can't learn online or at home like some other people may be able to do. Now, let's be quite clear here. There is no better way to learn than being in an in-class program with an actual professional. It's really like, the best way to learn how to cook is by attending an actual culinary school. But how many of us have been able to learn how to cook something very special by simply watching a YouTube video? I know I have. My keto New York cheesecake is a family favorite. I learned it from YouTube. Now I'm sure, now that you think about it, you can recall a handful of online tutorials that have taught you something of value. Why can't calligraphy, or art in general, fall in that category? Self-taught artists absolutely do exist. You just have to make it possible in your own mind first. Okay, mistake number 3. Expecting too much too soon. This is a major reason why some beginners give up shortly after starting, and I'm sure many of you may be able to relate to this. And because you don't want to face the real issue here, you blame it on lack of time. The first thing you can do here is to change your mindset around the process of learning. As much as it is about the lure of the end result, it is also about enjoying the journey of getting there. Instead of thinking that you need to climb a rocky mountain to get to your destination, think of it as a scenic road trip through the hilly countryside where every turn brings a marvelous view and a breath of fresh air. Enjoy the journey to such an extent that the destination almost becomes an afterthought. Learn to be in the present moment and focus selflessly on the next sentence, the next letter, the next stroke that's at hand. And once you can do this, the timeline almost becomes irrelevant. Okay, so those were the 3 mistakes that a lot of beginners make when they first start out. If you were able to relate to any one of these, know that these are very common amongst beginners. And these walls exist just in your mind. Once you choose to go past them, you'll realize how easy it was to get past them and how ridiculous it has been for hanging on to them for such a long time. Okay, so now let's jump into the content of the presentation. As I mentioned, we will be discussing the 5 steps to learning Arabic calligraphy. Now, the first part to this 5-step learning process was the discussion on the mindset, which we just discussed. So we are going to jump into the second step, which is knowing the tools and supplies to get started with writing Arabic calligraphy. So first things first, in order to write Arabic calligraphy, the pen or the qalam that you will be needing to write this art would need to be a chisel tip pen. Now, this is not just a nice to have, this is an absolute requirement. You cannot write calligraphy with just an average ballpoint pen. The difference between handwriting and calligraphy is that calligraphy requires a chisel tip writing instrument. Now, if you go to a local art store, you will find a lot of chisel tip pens that are completely flat from the top. Now, those pens are actually great for writing English calligraphy. However, for the purposes of Arabic calligraphy, those pens are just not going to work. And that's mainly because of the dynamics of the Arabic script itself. Not only do we move in the opposite direction, we go from right to left when writing Arabic, but also because of the unique nature of the script itself, we actually require an angled chisel tip instrument, or also called an oblique chisel tip instrument, to script this art. Now, you can go a couple of different routes here. You can get yourself a traditional Arabic calligraphy writing instrument like a bamboo pen. Like what you see in this picture over here is a set of bamboo pen, a set of Java pen, and a set of Handam pens. Again, these are the traditional instruments that we use to write Arabic calligraphy with. And a lot of these tools, especially the bamboo pen, could be created right at home using a raw bamboo stem that you can grab from a local hardware or gardening store using an everyday utility knife. So my first recommendation is to find yourself or make yourself a traditional writing instrument, but let's not get stuck on this. Okay, this is not a requirement. This is just a nice to have. Now, if you want to get started and you don't have one of these traditional instruments, then you can get started with the everyday chisel tip Sharpie marker. These are available widely at your local Staples or Walmart. Okay, shouldn't be hard to find at all. So get started with these if you don't have a traditional tool like a bamboo pen. And then as you progress, you can always transition over to a traditional writing tool sometime in the future. Okay, so don't let this hold you back. Get started with what you have and then go from there. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about the ink that we will need to write Arabic calligraphy with. So if you're using one of the traditional pens like a bamboo or a Handam or Java pen, then my recommendation is to use India ink or Chinese Sumi ink or calligraphy ink. Now it's pretty easy to find any one of these three. You can go to your local Michaels and you can find India ink there. In fact, even easier than that is to just order it from Amazon. Most brands of India ink work great. I mean, I've tried Speedball, Demco, Calligraphic. They all work great. Now, one thing that I would caution you against is using the everyday fountain pen ink. This is just not going to work for you. Everyday fountain pen ink is way too fluid and will be flowing all over your sheet of paper, and it's just going to give you an untidy result. So save yourself the trouble. No need to pull your hair out. Just get yourself the right ink right off the bat to write Arabic calligraphy with. Now let's talk about the type of paper that I recommend. So glossy paper is preferred regardless of the type of tool you are using. So whether you're using a traditional tool like a bamboo, Java, or a Handam pen, or you are using a chisel tip Sharpie marker, my suggestion is to use glossy paper The glossy paper does not absorb any ink, so firstly, you're not going to see it seep through the sheet. Also, because the ink is not going to be absorbed within the body of the paper, it's not going to spread needlessly, and you are going to get tidy results. Okay, so just get yourself a pack of glossy paper and you are good to go here. Okay, so now that we've talked about what kind of pen we need in order to write Arabic calligraphy, now let's talk about the actual pen dynamics. Okay, there's a specific way to hold the pen, and there is an actual angle at which we should be holding the pen in order to write Arabic calligraphy the appropriate way. Okay, so here is a traditional protractor. At what angle do you think we should be holding the pen at? Is it 45 degrees, 30 degrees, 90 degrees? Go ahead, put it in the chat box. Let's see what you guys think. Okay, so I'm getting answers all over the board. 60, 50, a whole bunch of 45s, and that's completely understandable. Some 80s as well. Okay, so we're pretty much all over the board here. So let me tell you that most beginners actually think that we hold the pen at a 45-degree angle when we are writing Arabic calligraphy. Now, that may be true with certain scripts like the Ruqa. This isn't the case for most Arabic calligraphy scripts, especially the Diwani and the Thuluth scripts. The correct angle to hold the chisel tip is between 80 degrees and 90 degrees. So sometimes the chisel tip could be perfectly vertical, and sometimes you can rotate it just slightly clockwise to about 80 degrees. Now the ideal angle here is somewhere around 84 or 85 degrees. Now the easiest way to do this practically, considering we're not going to have a protractor with us all the time, is to hold the pen at a perfectly vertical angle. And when you do that, you are just going to rotate it ever so slightly clockwise to get that perfect angle. Just make sure that you don't rotate it any more than 10 degrees, which is again, a maximum of 80 degrees on the protractor. Now let's look at this practically. I know that I discussed this in theory here. So over here I have a quick video of me making these strokes. So this is a perfectly vertical line here with a 90-degree angle. This is an 80-degree line. Okay, so this is as horizontal as it gets, and the perfect angle is somewhere in between around 84, 85 degrees, which is like this. Okay, so the first thing you should do after getting your chisel tip writing instrument is to practice holding the pen at its proper angle, because if you're not consistently holding the pen at its proper angle, then you're just not going to get the results that you're looking from your calligraphic artwork. It's that simple. Okay, so now let's talk about the progression map. So we have our tools, we know how to hold the pen properly, but how do I learn this art? What do I learn first? What do I learn next? How do I get to this point where I am creating my own Arabic calligraphy masterpieces? So to answer that, here is the progression map. The first thing we do is that we get started with learning individual letters. What do letters look like when they are written on their own, not connected to any other letter? Now, when we are at the stage, we are not focusing on just a letter, but in fact, we are focusing and zeroing in on each individual stroke that makes up the composition of each letter. Okay, so over here I have a demonstration of the letter Jim, two ways of writing the letter Jim in the Diwani script, and you can see how I have broken down each single stroke of the letter Jim. So you can see that the letter Jim consists of 3 different strokes. Now the idea here is to master each one of these strokes independently and then put it all together so that you can form the letter perfectly. Now the red diamonds that you see here are called nuqtas, and they are the base units for our scaling and measurements. Now, depending on the size of the pen, or rather the size of the chisel tip of your pen, the size of the nuqta is going to vary, and ultimately the size of the entire letter is going to vary. So ultimately, the thickness of your chisel tip instrument dictates how big or how small your letter is going to be. Now, going back to my earlier conversation about these letters being comprised of several individual strokes, when you are starting off, when you are a beginner learning this art, I would highly suggest that you lift the pen after each stroke. Okay, so each one of these strokes should be scripted individually and independently. And once you can do that, once you can script each one of those individual strokes in their proper scaling and proportions, when you put it all together, the entire letter will ultimately come out the right way. Okay, so to demonstrate this a little bit better, I have a quick little clip of how I practice the letter ta in the Diwani script. So again, this is a little fast forwarded, but you'll see that each one of these strokes is written individually. I lift the pen after each one of the strokes, I dip it in ink, and then I write the next stroke. And then once I'm done that, I basically go back and I put in my measurement nuqtas just to make sure that everything falls in the right scaling. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a better idea of how this first stage looks like. The first stage where we learn to write individual letters. Okay, so once you have learned individual letters and what they look like when they're written on their own, the next step is to learn pair tables. So in contrast to step 1, in step 2, we are learning to write these letters the way they would appear inside of an actual word. So to elaborate this further, the shape of a letter would vary depending on whether it appears in the beginning, middle, or at the end of a word. Now, to get a little bit more specific to the Diwani script, there are a couple more factors that determine the actual shape of the letter. So it's not just about the letter being in the beginning, middle, or end. We also have to consider what the following letter after a specific letter looks like. So stay with me here and let me explain to you. When a letter appears in the beginning or in the middle of a word, its shape is ultimately determined by the type of letter that follows it. Now, the following letter could either connect from the right-hand side, it could either connect from the top, or in the case that it's a sad or ta, then in that case, the shape of the letter also looks pretty unique. So I know this all sounds very confusing at this point in time, so let's have a look at an actual example. Let's look into the letter lam. Now, when the letter lam appears in the beginning, and say that the next letter is a letter that connects from the right-hand side. In this case, we will say it's a ba, because the ba is a letter that connects from the right-hand side. Now we can see what the letter lam looks like when the following letter connects from the right-hand side. In this case, it's a ba. Okay, so we can see that in the beginning, it has a certain kind of shape. When it appears in the middle, it also has a certain kind of shape. Now let's have a look at what happens when the following letter connects from the top. So again, there are a specific set of letters that connect from the top, like the Jim, the Meme, etc. So let's have a look at the letter Jim and how that affects the lam when it appears before it. So let's have a look at the beginning lam over here. So you'll see how the lam almost curves downwards as opposed to going back upwards like we saw in the previous example, because in this case you can see that the Jim is a letter, or Jim or Ha is a letter that connects from the top, and how ultimately that affects the shape of the Lam, which appears right before it. Okay, and then the same thing applies to the middle letter Lam that we have a look over here, is how the shape of that Lam looks so much different from the previous Lam that we had a look at when the following letter connects from the top. Okay, now the third factor here is when the following letter is either a Sad or a Ta. Now, generally speaking, when the following letter is a Sad or a Ta, the leading edge of the previous letter is thinned out before it connects to the actual letter Sad or Ta. So as you can see here, in both of these examples, how the letter Lam thins out before we get into the letter Sad. Now, I know this may seem a little bit confusing at this point in time, but ultimately what I want you to remember is that when a letter appears in the beginning or in the middle of a word, its shape is ultimately determined by the letter that follows it. Okay? That's all you need to remember at this point in time. All right, so when we're learning pair tables, we need to pay attention to what the letters look like in the beginning and the middle, and then of course how the letter looks like when it appears at the end. So here is an example of the letter Lam when it appears at the end of a module. So now the question is, how do I know these pair tables? How do I know what these letters look like in any given situation? You can do this a couple of different ways. You can study artwork of other professional calligraphers and really try to notice what these letters look like. Or you can get yourself a guidebook or take an online course that explain all of these to you. Ultimately, out of all the steps that I've discussed here, learning pair tables is the most elaborate part of the process. This is going to take you the longest amount of time. As you can imagine, once you learn these pair tables, you essentially learn the building blocks of the Diwani script, and ultimately that's when you get started with writing words and sentences. So here is an example of a typical pair table worksheet that we practice from as we are learning the art. So as we were discussing the letter Lam, here is a quick 30-second clip of how we would practice the different variations of the letter Lam in the middle of a module. So over here, I'm using a tracing paper on top of an actual practice sheet, and then I'm simply working my way through from the beginning of the worksheet till the end. Again, this is fast forwarded. The actual worksheet itself would have taken me around 15 minutes or so to do. Okay, so once we have learned individual letters and pair tables, now naturally the next step here is to start writing words and sentences. Again, there isn't anything new to be learned here because now we're just taking the building blocks that we have learned up until this point in time, and we're really just putting it all together. So here is a quick video of me writing Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the Diwani script. Again, this is nothing more than just a combination of the various pair tables that I have learned up until this point in my journey, and it's just me putting it all together to write an actual sentence. Now again, this is fast forwarded. The actual composition took me about 15 to 20 minutes to put together. Now, the last tip here is that, once we have become comfortable with writing words and sentences, what we do is we move over to composing complex compositions. Now, in the Diwani script, what we have is a variation of the script called the Jali Diwani script, and this is nothing more than just an embellished version of the core Diwani script that we have learned up until this point in time. So if you have a look at the examples that I have here of Jali Diwani, you'll see that it's essentially the same script, but it does have a lot more embellishments. Like you'll see on the alif, we have these little wavy shapes coming out. Also, you'll see that the endings of each one of these letters tends to be a little bit more curved than usual. All in all, the Jali Diwani script is essentially a more embellished and a more fancy way of writing the core Diwani script. And then in the stage, we also learn how to write the script in specific shapes. So over here on the right hand side, you can see Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which has been written in a circular shape. And then on the left hand side, we see a traditional boat shaped Jali Diwani calligraphic artwork. And so over here, I'm just going to play a quick video of a boat-shaped composition that I wrote myself. And this is essentially Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. So again, fast forwarded, but just want to show you very quickly on what the actual process of writing this looks like. Okay, so essentially this is what the progression map looks like when you are learning the Diwani script. Now let's talk about guidance and support. Now, before we do that, I just wanted to point out a few things. Please keep in mind that anything that we have learned up until this point in time is not just theory. This is the exact process that has been used to learn the art for hundreds of years. It is the exact same process whether you learn on your own or with an actual teacher. I use these principles to learn myself and teach thousands around the world. So it is definitely a proven methodology. You really have two options. Option one, you try to learn on your own and develop the skills using trial and error. Now let me tell you that this is a very practical option, and there are many self-taught calligraphers in the world today. The only issue with this option is that it takes you a lot longer to learn the art. And the process could also be a little frustrating if you just don't have the entire roadmap with you. The second option is that you use a proven step-by-step plan while getting feedback on your progress. And so if option 2 resonates more with you, then I would personally invite you to my online program, the Diwani Script program. This is a complete, proven, step-by-step online program to master the Diwani script in 7 weeks. Now, I should mention that the 7-week period is just a suggested time frame. You do get lifetime access to the program, so you can really learn at your own pace. Now, this program is ideal for you if you've been a calligraphy passionate all your life and just never got the chance to learn yourself. There are no calligraphy classes or teachers in your vicinity. Your life schedule doesn't allow you to attend a weekly in-class program. And if you require ongoing support as you learn the art. So what exactly do you get with your enrollment in this program? You get more than 18 hours of video content. You get all the homework and practice assignments that you can print out and work in your own time. You also get real-time practice videos for assignments. Now, this is something unique that I have introduced in this particular course because I want you to feel that you have support every step of the way, even when it comes time to practice. So I basically go through each one of these practice sheets with you on video so you can better understand the pace and just the general dynamics of the script when you are practicing. A lot of courses would just give you content and then just let you practice on your own. I didn't want to leave you out in the dark. I wanted to make sure that you have guidance even while you are practicing. You also get access to our private members only Facebook group. This is where you are encouraged to post your work, request feedback, ask any questions you have along the journey, and we are going to be more than happy to help you out along your journey. This is a close-knit group of like-minded individuals who are on the same journey as you are, and we are all here to help each other out and move each other forward. And also, you get lifetime access to all of these resources that I have mentioned above with your enrollment. So very similar to the progression map that we discussed earlier, this 7-week program is divided into those 4 steps of the progression map that we discussed. So in weeks 1 and 2, we are going to be learning individual letters. This is where we're going to be breaking down each single stroke of each individual letter, and basically we will be going through every single letter in the Arabic calligraphy alphabet. Now, pair tables, as I mentioned before, is the most elaborate part of the learning process, and so we are going to be dedicating weeks 3, 4, and 5 to learning pair tables. As these are the essential building blocks for our compositions, we are going to be diving deep into every single letter and discussing every single variation for its commencing, middle, and finishing formats. In week 6, we will bring it all together and we're going to start writing words and sentences. And in week 6, we are going to be learning the Jali Diwani script. I'm basically going to be showing you how you can write in different shapes and formations. Essentially, what are some of the key distinctions between the Jali Diwani script and the traditional Diwani script. Now, in addition to all of this, I'm also offering you a huge bonus module, and this is a complete guide for creating calligraphy canvases. So once you've learned how to write calligraphy using a Qalam on a piece of paper, in its proper scaling and measurements, in its proper formations, then I'm going to show you how to take those skills and translate it to actual canvas artwork. So I'm going to be showing you a couple of basic background painting techniques and then several techniques on how to actually script Arabic calligraphy on an actual canvas. So we'll be discussing the 2-pencil method, the tracing paper method, the paintbrush method, and we're also going to learn how to write Arabic calligraphy on ceramics using just a traditional chisel tip marker. So what is your investment in this program? Now, this program does retail for $297 US on my website, but I always like to give a special discount to those who attend my webinar and go through my trainings, because I know that you are the group of students who are most serious about learning this art. And so I have a very special offer for you if you register for this program before the end of this webinar. So in the next 15 minutes or so, you will be saving 50% on your enrollment, and you'll be able to enroll for just $149. Again, this is just a one-time payment of lifetime access to 18 plus hours of video content, all homework and practice assignments, real-time practice videos for those assignments, access to our private members-only Facebook group, as well as the bonuses that come with this program. Now, I can completely understand if you are still on the fence about this, you just don't know if this program is going to work for you or not. So I want to take all that risk away from you. I'm going to offer you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Enroll in this program, work through the content, do the homework and practice assignments, and if for whatever reason it doesn't work out for you, email me within 30 days of your registration and I'll be happy to provide a full refund to you. Now, I do want to let you know that this program closes for enrollment this upcoming Thursday. So if you want to register for this particular session, please make a decision by end of day Thursday. Having said that, if you want to take advantage of the 50% discount, then you would need to register while we are still on this webinar. So at this time, you'll see a button pop up which will take you to the registration page. Now, the instructions to register are pretty simple. Once you scroll all the way down, you will see the sign up link over there. Go ahead and click sign up. Then you would need to fill out your credentials. Now you can pay either by using a credit card or your PayPal account, and then you need to click enroll now. Once you do that, you are going to be taken directly to the course page. This is where you're going to be creating your account. So essentially your email, and then you're going to be setting a new password for yourself. And then once you do that, you will be logged into the portal for the Diwani Script program. And I would suggest that you start off with the intro video that is available right at the top of the portal page there. Okay, so at this point, I want to take the time and answer any questions you may have at this time. whether it's about this program in specific or about Arabic calligraphy or the Diwani script in general, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Now, before I get to the Q&A, I know I promised you something. This was the individual letter strokes breakdown PDF. And so if you don't want to stick around for the questions or you don't want to enroll in this program, I do want to give this PDF to you. So you will see a link appear now through which you can download this PDF. Thank you so very much for sticking with me till the end. I appreciate your time and I wish you all the very best. For the rest of you who are still on the call, please go ahead and put in your questions in the comment box below, and I'll do my best to answer your question. Now, there are a lot of attendees on this webinar, so the chances of me getting through every single one of these questions is highly unlikely. So I'll be going through the questions and looking for those common questions that a lot of people are asking. And if by the end of the webinar your question remains unanswered, please go ahead and send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer your question through email. Okay? All right, so let's have a look here. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of questions about. So here's a common question. I'm an absolute beginner. I have never held a calligraphy pen in my hand. Is this course right for me? In short, yes, absolutely. This course is designed with beginners in mind, and we start right from scratch. So don't worry about that. If you have never held a pen in your hand, that is exactly where we are going to get started. Okay, so Halima asks, where can I buy the traditional calligraphy pen? So, as part of the program, I will teach you how you can craft your own bamboo qalam from, a raw stem that you can buy from a local garden or hardware store. Also, go ahead and check out ArabicCalligraphySupplies.com. They ship out of Washington, D.C. and have really quality products, and I've never had an issue with them. And by the way, I am not affiliated with them in any way. I'm not getting any commissions for saying this. I've just had a really good experience with them, and I won't hesitate to refer them to you. So again, ArabicCalligraphySupplies.com. All right, so let's have a look. All right. Do I have to complete the course in 7 weeks? No. Since you have lifetime access to the program, not only can you learn at your own pace, but you can also revisit the lessons as many times as you'd like. 7 weeks is just a suggested time frame, as the online course is based on the actual in-class 7-week program, but this is again just a guideline. You don't have to finish the course in 7 weeks. You can take 7 months or 7 years. It's really up to you. You have lifetime access. Okay? All right, so let's see what else we have here. Okay. Will my homework be assessed? In short, yes, if you would like it to be assessed. You can choose to have feedback on your homework by posting it in our closed Facebook group. Either myself or an experienced old-time student of the program will be more than happy to provide you with the proper corrections and guidance. All right, so hopefully that helps. When does the course start? Great question, and I get this asked a lot. Now, I want to let you know that there isn't any specific start or end date to this program. All the course content will be made available to you the moment you register. Typically, it takes about a week or more to go through each module thoroughly. However, there is no need to rush with the lessons. Since you'll have lifetime access, you can learn at your own pace. Okay? All right. Let's see here. How much time should I block out for each week if I'm taking this program? So if you choose to complete the program in the recommended 7-week time frame, then you should block off at least 3 hours each week. 1 hour for learning and 2 hours for practicing what you've learned in that lesson. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Okay. How much will I be able to learn in the 7-week period? So, great question. Content-wise, you'll learn everything there is to know about the Diwani script in the 7-week period. Now, in regards to your ability to write calligraphy, most of my students are able to script with 80% accuracy by the end of the program. To achieve the remaining 20%, it could take months. This is where the concept of mastery comes in. Like my teacher used to tell me when I was learning from him as a child, is that it's easy to learn how to write well, but to write with perfection takes years of discipline and commitment. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Can I gift this course to others? Yeah, absolutely. At the time of registration, make sure that you use the name and the email address of the person you're gifting this course to. Then essentially they will be receiving the login instructions in their email. Make sure you let them know ahead of time that you're registering them for this program before they think it's some sort of a spam coming in their inbox. You really don't want to be in a situation where you gift something to somebody and that person thinks it's some sort of spam. Make sure they know about it, all right? Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Is this program suitable for children? Yes, absolutely. I myself started learning calligraphy when I was 7 years old, and I'm very confident with the level of detail that is inside of this program that children 7 and up can take this program and it would be suitable for them. All right? Okay, so we're going to take one more question here, and then if you have any further questions after that, please feel free to send me an email, and I would be more than happy to answer over email. As you can probably hear, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, and I don't want to keep you guys here longer than I promised you. So let's just go over one more question here. Can you give some more details on the 30-day refund policy? Yes, so this is a standard 30-day money-back guarantee policy. You can try out the program, go over the videos, print out the practice sheets, and if you realize that it's just not working out for you or you're not making any progress, send me an email and I'd be happy to provide a full refund to you. Okay, this makes the course completely risk-free for you. It's really that simple. There are no fine prints. Just send me an email within 30 days and you will get your money back. Okay, so that is it for today's session, folks. Thank you so very much for joining me here today in today's webinar. I hope that you're able to take something valuable away from it. Again, if you want to take this a step further, then I would highly suggest that you join my Diwani Script program. And just as a reminder, doors to this program do close end of day this upcoming Thursday. And the program won't be open again for several months to come. So I would love to have you join. All right, folks, so take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.